Bam! By Zoe Grace 1. I had known about Animal Crossing New Leaf for quite some time, mostly due to the new villager meme. After a while, I decided I should get the game. I was hearing about it everywhere, and I thought the idea was cute, and being the mayor sounded like a great idea. Around July, I was in San Francisco on a holiday. Everything was foggy and cold. I rode the tram over to GameStop and bought the game. It wasn't pre-owned, it was brand new. When I left GameStop rather happy with myself, everything suddenly sunk. It literally smelt like sewage. The whole city did. I started up the game, put my earphones in, and got ready to play. It started up normally, Rover on the train asking me questions about myself. As I got off the train, Isabel and my villagers were waiting for me. They gave me a rather strange welcome. It wasn't usual, but I was suddenly the mayor. I expected this, of course, and began to play the game normally. I got my tent pitched and began to look for some of the villagers. The first villager I met was a jock-type personality deer named Bam. I didn't know much about the game, and I only had a few people in my village, so I thought each villager had a uniquely programmed personality. Bam quickly became my favorite villager, along with Cookie at a close second. As I progressed through the game, very slowly, I began to do less of my mayor business and began to talk to my villagers. That's when everything started to act up. Sometimes I saw glitched tiles, colored black grass. I went into the town hall when I got the message. An error occurred. Press and hold power to turn the system off. This happened a lot, so I restarted my system, but the 3DS menu screen, normally with Isabella running in a circle on a patch of grass, Isabella was absent, and the circle was entirely dirt. On the Animal Crossing title screen, the music was quiet and at a slightly higher pitch. I had this happen a lot with my Pokemon Pearl game, so again, I started up my save file. There was no Isabella starting up the game. It just went straight to in front of my house. I felt a sudden sick feeling in my stomach, but I loved glitching game cartridges. I found it quite amusing, actually. I went to see Bam. He wasn't home, but hey, the game was glitchy. I pressed A to open the door, a text box flashed up saying, "I'm out training. Bam." My character strangely opened the door and went inside. Around now, I was beginning to think that this glitchy cartridge was more of a benefit. The screen blacked out to load, while the train icon in the corner appeared. As I entered the town, there were multiple villagers inside, all staring at one thing. I couldn't see what they were staring at, but they were either crying or with a dark aura around their heads. I tried to talk to one of them, Lucy. She didn't turn around, but instead a text box appeared with her name. The text appeared all at once saying, "He's gone." At that moment, I was confused and decided to leave. As I left, some mother of a glitch awaited me. As I stepped outside, my character wasn't smiling, they were frowning. All of the grass tiles had turned to dark gray, and the sky was pitch black, with no stars or moon. When I had started up the game, it was around 10 a.m. Now it was set to 4 a.m. The tree leaves had turned blood red, and none of the trees had any fruit. The town tree was gone. I didn't understand. I had been active on the game every day since I got it. I went online and quickly looked up the problem. Nothing came up. I headed to the town hall and entered. The lights were off inside the town hall, but that should only happen on an event day. As I entered, after the room loaded, the room's furniture was everywhere, and covered in what looks like cartoonish blood. The room was dimly lit and flickered with a red tingling light. In shock, I tried to turn the game off, holding down the power button. Nothing happened. After a few seconds of holding the power button frantically, suddenly a text box popped up. Isabel was speaking. "Hello, Mayor Lucas. Do you like what I've done with the place?" Isabel walked out from behind a destroyed piece of furniture. She was different from when I saw her last. Her coat was completely red, her eyes were red, but the shine in her eyes was pure white. She had red wings on her back, demon wings. As she spread them, a gleaming white smile appeared on her face and said, "I did this." If I couldn't turn it off, I could still close the DS and rip out the cartridge. I tried to close the DS, but it was firmly stuck. A text box appeared from Isabel again. "Try as much as you want. It won't close or turn off." One last thing, ripping out the cartridge. As soon as my fingers touched the cartridge, the speaker in my DS began to wail a scream. It spread as my TV, 2 computers, and every speaker in the house began to wail out the same deafening cry. I snatched back my hand from the cartridge, and the wailing stopped. However, suddenly Isabel's gibberish began to echo through the speakers. Isabel began to laugh and the lights in my house started to flicker. Then I thought, one last way to destroy the cartridge. Burning it. Unfortunately, my 3DS would go with it, but it's better than this. Isabel's laughing continued to echo, but suddenly her gibberish began to become understandable. It was almost singing. She was singing something. It was still mostly gibberish, but I heard death, murder, and burn multiple times. I got a match, lit it, and chucked it on the cartridge. As soon as the flame hit the cartridge, I blacked out. I woke up a few days later in a hospital. I asked how I got there, and apparently the neighbors had called the police after they heard wailing. When the police entered, there was some winged, bipedal humanoid demon dog creature poised to attack me. She apparently began to scratch at my chest with wings before the police could stop her. As soon as they got a hold of the dog creature, she simply vaporized. An ambulance was called, and I was carried off to the hospital. I opened up the game next week. Everything was normal again, but there was one thing absent from everything. Isabel. That was BAM. Final thoughts? Extremely stupid and generic. This is pretty much the same as any of those really poorly done game effects real-life stories just done to Animal Crossing. They buy the game, the character in the game speaks to the player through the speakers, blood everywhere, blah blah blah. I'm really not sure how this one even got put in the finished story hand-in thread, seeing as we have rules specifically against using some of these plot points in the stories because they're so shitty. Also, before anyone tries to say this is a troll pasta, like a lot of people comment, no it isn't. This, just like most stories done on my show, is a story written specifically for the show by a viewer of the show, then peer-edited over the course of weeks to months on the forum. They talk back and forth with people peer-editing and put serious amounts of time and effort into it. On top of that, I can talk to the author at any point in time to verify anything I need to. This isn't a troll pasta, it just sucks. That's it for this week's Creepypasta. Tune in again next week when we tackle yet another story made and sent in by the fans with Diamond in the Rough. If you want to write your own story, help peer edit a story, or even just read the stories early, check out the description where you'll find a link to the Creepypasta section of my forum. You'll also find a link to the playlist of every Creepypasta reading I've done. Remember that if you want your story to be read on the show, you must stay active on your post on the forum, as well as read the forum rules. Thank you all for watching, and until next time, sweet dreams.